Well, good morning. Hey, happy Easter, everyone. Hope you are doing well today. Welcome to Northshore. My name is David.
Hello, everyone. My name is Samantha. We are so excited that you're joining us today. We have been counting down the days until this day. This is our favorite day of the year around here. And the reason for that is we get to celebrate the ultimate good news today, that the tomb is empty and Jesus is risen. And we are so glad that each of you are here today joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, hey, we're so glad that you made it out this morning. And in fact, we are so pumped to get ready for Easter. I don't know, Sam, I don't know if they look ready to you.
They do. But here's the thing, we still have some people coming in. Maybe you're just logged in online. But here's one thing we know for sure. This amazing worship team behind us, they are ready to go. They don't want to wait one more minute. So again, everyone in this room, welcome all of you joining online. We're so glad you're here.
Yeah. Hey, one of the things that we say often here is that Jesus can change everything for anyone. And we know God is going to do some amazing things today. So are you all ready? Sam, do they sound ready to you?
I think we can do a little bit better than that.
Are you all ready? Hey, I know it's 7:30, all right? I know you got just coffee in your blood right now. But hey, God is here and we're going to celebrate in a big way today.
Will you go ahead and stand with us and let's worship.
Happy Easter, everyone.
video together.
So the organization that I work with, Josiah Venture, we are primarily a youth and discipleship focused organization. So our heart is really to raise up, to train and develop the next generation of leaders in Central and Eastern Europe. We've really had to shift in this past month from this youth organization to this humanitarian relief organization. In the early days, as we were trying to figure out how can we get this much needed aid to the hurting people in Ukraine, and how do we get refugees out? And so someone had the idea, let's load up buses, let's shuttle it in. And that's a great idea until you come to the problem of, we need to find a bus driver that is willing to send their business into a war, not knowing if it's going to come back. And initially there was a Polish driver, and he just said, if you'll give me a bulletproof vest and if you pay for my gas, I'll make the trip. That one bus driver in Poland has turned into 3 or 4 Polish drivers and several in Slovakia. And so our team now has done, I think, 42 bus trips across the border. I personally am just humbled and so thankful for how Northshore, the people of Northshore, have taken this stand to, like the Good Samaritan, to say, some innocent person is hurting and in need, and I'm not just going to walk past and ignore this hurting person. To be able to provide for the gas for these bus trips, for the food, the medicine. Northshore's helped provide over 300,000 meals for people inside and outside of Ukraine. That's loving your neighbor. And Northshore, the people of Northshore have and are filling and stepping into this really, really important gap that Europe is facing right now.
And honestly, that's the kind of church that we want to be. To be able to stand in the gap and really bring the hope of Jesus to those that are in need. In fact, our vision here at Northshore is to be a church together for our neighbors, next generation, and those in need. And so when this entire crisis kind of broke out a couple months ago, we asked you to rise to the occasion and just do whatever we can to help the people of Ukraine. And boy, did you ever respond. Because we raised over $130,000 in just a few weeks. Yeah, that's incredible. That's amazing. You've been just out of this world generous, and thank you for being so generous with all of that.
I love that we get to be a part of what God is doing through our generosity. So just thank you again so much. But again, we wanted to welcome you all in this room, and of course, those of you joining us online. My name is Samantha.
And my name is David, and we're so glad that you're here. Hey, I'm gonna ask you to do something. If you wouldn't mind just reaching forward and grabbing those connection cards. And of course, if you're watching online, you can scan the QR code. And we're gonna really ask every one of you to do that, because we're gonna actually be doing something really cool with these connection cards today, okay?
Okay, I saw a little bit of movement, but go ahead and grab it. Scan that QR code if you prefer. But here's the really awesome thing about these connection cards today. Every single one of these that we get, we are gonna be donating $5 to the Together For Fund, which is so awesome because every single dollar that goes to Together For, it goes directly to these local and global opportunities to be able to help people that are in need. And so whether this is your first time joining us or you've been at Northshore for years, we all have the chance to fill one of these out today, and I think the impact is gonna be awesome.
Yeah, give me like a dozen of those, right?
I know,
Because
same.
like, seriously, honestly, with each of these cards, it'll make a tremendous impact, tangible impact in someone's lives. And so go ahead and do that.
Yes, and I'm seeing a few new faces that I don't recognize and a couple new names in the chat as well. So if this is your first time joining us, we just wanted to say welcome. We're so glad that you're here today. Be sure and fill out that connection card, introduce yourself, and then after the service, go ahead and take it out to the lobby, to the guest services area, because we have an awesome gift for you today for being our guest.
Well, hey, today we get to celebrate something amazing because 2,000 years ago, something amazing happened. And that's why we're here today, to tell that story again. And so when Jesus died on the cross and rose from the dead, lives were changed. Back then, 2,000 years ago, and even today, lives continue to be changed. And so we want to put something together to show you and recapture that moment. And so take a look at this video.
ואחרי מוצאי השבת, כשהאיר לאחד בשבת, באה מרים המגדלית לראות את הקבר. והנה רעש גדול היה, כי מלאך אדוני ירד מן השמיים. ומרים עמדה מחוץ לקבר, והיא בוכייה, ותשקף אל תוך הקבר, ותראה שני מלאכים לבושי לבנים, יושבים במקום אשר שמו שם את גופת ישוע, אחד מראשותיו ואחד מרגלותיו. ויהי ככלותה לדבר זאת, ותאמר אליו, רבוני הוא מורה. ויאמר אליה ישוע, אל תגעי בי, כי עוד לא עליתי אל אבי, הולכי נא אל אחי, והגידי להם. אני עולה אל אבי ואביכם, ואל אלוהי ואלוהיכם. ותבוא מרים המגדלית, ותספר אל התלמידים את אשר ראתה את האדון, וכזאת דיבר אליה.
Death acclaimed its victory. The King of love had given up his life. The darkest day in history. There on a cross they made for sinners. For every curse his blood atoned. One final breath and it was finished. But not the end we could have known. For the earth began to shake, and the veil was torn. What sacrifice was made as the heavens roar. Would you stand with us as we sing this song together? All hail King Jesus. All hail the Lord of heaven and earth. All hail King Jesus. All hail the Savior of the world.
morning. You can have a seat. Well, happy Resurrection Sunday to everybody who is in this room and to all of you who may be joining us online. I am so glad that you're here to be with us this Easter. And the first thing I want to say is, regardless of who you are or what's going on in your life, you are welcome here. We believe that Jesus died on a cross and walked out of a grave because God wants a relationship with everyone. And so everyone here gets welcomed like family, even the awkward uncles out there. And you know who you are. But I hope, regardless of what brings you here today, that you feel right at home while you're here. Second thing I want you to know is that you're here for a reason. It's not just because someone dragged you here against your will or because someone's forcing you to watch online before you have breakfast. I believe that you're here because God wants you to experience the power of Easter in your life. The same power that has changed literally billions of lives across time and language and culture. The same power that's given strength to the weary and peace to the anxious, and hope to the hopeless for 2,000 years. And it's a power you can't find anywhere else. I was just talking with someone recently who's, like many of us, kind of hit a wall over the past 2 years, emotionally, relationally, and spiritually. And get this, he told me that he had booked the nicest room and the nicest hotel in Hawaii to get away for a week to try to find some peace and perspective in his life. But he was already worried that just getting away to a beautiful place wouldn't solve all of his problems. And you know what? He's right. It wouldn't. And so as a pastor, I felt like I had to tell him something. And so I said, I would be willing to stay in that room for you as an act of love and compassion. I'm just kidding, I didn't actually tell him that, but I did tell him that there is a power that's available to you. And it doesn't come from a beautiful vacation or a new routine. That power comes from an empty tomb. One of the very first followers of Jesus, a man named Paul, once wrote that the same power that raised Jesus from the dead can actually live inside you. That means the same power that brought Jesus back to life can bring you back to life, or your relationship back to life, or your mental health back to life, or your marriage back to life, or that sense of purpose back to life. And to prove it to you in just a few moments, you're gonna see real people just like you come up on the stage and say yes to the life-changing power of Jesus by getting baptized. And by the way, if you're in the room right now, you might be one of them, even if you don't know it yet. Because the power, or Easter, isn't just an event we remember, it's a power that we can experience. But there's a catch. There's a catch. And I'm not talking a catch like that fine print that you hear, you know, like in the prescription drug commercials on TV. You know the commercials I'm talking about? You know, there's someone who's like skipping along the beach and they're looking happy and healthy because they found this new miracle drug, Lufthansa. I think that's actually a German airline, but work with me on this one, okay? They found this new miracle drug and it's changed their life. But at the end of the ad, there's this voice that comes on in like 10 times speed that says, by the way, some people who take Lufthansa, their skin falls off and their heart explodes. You know what I'm talking about? It's like that terrifying fine print. You're like, I don't want that. Well, that's not the kind of catch that I'm talking about. With Easter, the catch is literally a catch. In other words, you have to take a leap of faith and give your life to Jesus, not knowing how it's all gonna turn out, and trust that he's alive and that he'll catch you. But here's the thing, and you know this, taking a leap of faith isn't easy to do. I remember when I was a kid growing up and my mom was trying to teach me how to jump off of a diving board. And she would go out in the water right below the diving board, and she'd hold up her arms and say, I'll catch you, just jump. But even though she was just a few feet away, I felt like paralyzed by fear. And so I would walk back off the end of the diving board, then I would walk back to the end and look at her, then I'd walk back to the end of the board and I'd walk back out and look at her. And this happened over and over and over until my mom finally said, Scotty, you can't keep walking off the end of the diving board. You're 35 years old. You gotta jump. Taking a leap of faith isn't easy to do, and that's especially true when it comes to Jesus. And not just because he invites us or challenges us or calls us to surrender our whole life to him. One of the reasons it's challenging is because the story of Easter, the story that we're celebrating today, took place 2,000 years ago. So it's natural to have questions like, how do I really know that the tomb was empty? Like, what proof is there that Jesus is actually alive? Now, just so you know, there's a lot of evidence. There's more evidence for the resurrection than you might think. For example, it wasn't just a few witnesses who saw Jesus. There were literally hundreds of people who saw him, talked to him, reached out to him, touched him, encountered him in real life. Hundreds of people who could have refuted the stories when they were written down if they were untrue, but they didn't. And the very first witnesses were actually women. Now, why does that matter? Well, in the first century, in that day, women were seen as inferior and untrustworthy. In fact, a woman in that day was not allowed to give testimony in a court of law. So if you were gonna make up a story about a guy being raised from the dead, if you're gonna make that story up and try to convince people it's true, the last thing you would do is have women be the very first witnesses, because it'd discredit the story. But you see, it was true. But maybe the most compelling evidence that I know is that the very same disciples, the very same followers of Jesus who ran in fear when Jesus was nailed to that cross, years later would all give their lives telling the Easter story. Why? Because it happened. See, people don't give up their lives for something they know to be untrue. But it happened. So, I think the obstacle to believing in Jesus isn't a matter of evidence. There's plenty of evidence. The primary obstacle to believing in Jesus is a matter of experience. In other words, I don't think you need another argument for Jesus. I think right now, whatever's brought you here, wherever you're watching online, I think right now what you need is a real encounter with Jesus. A real encounter with him in your life. In a real way, because that's the only way to move from doubt to belief. So for the next few moments, I want to take you back into the Easter story to a very unique encounter that Jesus had with someone who did not believe. In fact, it was someone who refused to believe. And some of you may already be guessing the person that we're talking about, because for 2,000 years, this person has been known as the world's greatest doubter. You know him as Doubting Thomas. See, everybody knows this story, right? It's kind of sad, actually. Like, he has this one moment of doubt, and he gets labeled for it for like the rest of human history. Like, imagine if you got labeled for like one thing that you did wrong. Like, imagine just one thing, right? But I don't like to think of him as Doubting Thomas. I like to think of him as Legitimate Questioning Thomas, because he has some really legitimate questions about this whole raised from the dead thing. So I'm gonna put some verses on the screens, and we're gonna walk through some of the story together. And when we get to the words in red, I wanna say those words out loud together, okay? When you see the words in red. So here we go. This is from the Gospel of John. Now, Thomas, also known as Didymus, that just means twin. So Thomas probably had a twin brother. One of the 12 was not with the disciples when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, "We have seen the Lord." But he said to them, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands and put my finger where the nails were and put my hand into his side," everybody, "I will not believe." Now, I think a lot of people, if they're honest, a lot of people in our day can relate to this feeling, right? Maybe you've been a Christian for a long time, but for whatever reason, your faith has become kind of routine. Maybe it feels a little bit stagnant. You attend Easter, you believe in your head about Easter, but you don't really feel like you experience the power, the reality of Easter in your everyday life. Or maybe you've been praying for something, or hoping for something, or asking God to do something, and he hasn't done it in the way that you were wanting to. And so Easter sounds like good news for somebody else, but it doesn't feel like it's good news for you. Or maybe you grew up in the church, but for whatever reason, you feel like the church has let you down or other Christians have let you down. And so you're not sure you want to have anything to do with any of this. And by the way, this is interesting how this has kind of worked. A recent study by the Barna Group found that during the pandemic, get this, 1 out of 3 practicing Christians has left the church altogether. Over 30% of the church in 2 years has just walked away. Now, there's a number of reasons for that data to be true, but I think one of the main ones is what I call the Thomas factor. It's people who are saying, look, unless I have like a real experience of God, unless I experience the power, his power in my life, like I can't just go through the motions anymore. I mean, look at what's happening in the world all around us. And if that's you today, I am so glad you're here because that's where Thomas was at. One of the 12 disciples, that's exactly where he was at. The question is, what would Jesus say? What would Jesus do in response to this doubt? Let's take a look what happened next. Text says, a week later, his disciples were in the house again, and Thomas was with them. Though the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, everybody, peace be with you. Now, I want you to notice who came looking for who in this part of the story. I mean, Thomas, in spite of all his bravado, like, I will not believe, like, he wasn't actually out searching for Jesus. He wasn't running through the streets looking for Jesus. Like so many skeptics, his arms were crossed. He's sitting back saying, I just don't think I buy this anymore. Thomas didn't go looking for Jesus. Jesus came looking for Thomas. Friends, did you know that no matter how many doubts you have or how many questions you have, your doubts, your questions won't push Jesus away? Because Jesus is the only God who understands our doubts, who understands our questions. He's not afraid of them, he understands them. Remember, Jesus lived on this planet for 33 years. He was rejected by friends and family. He was mocked and mistreated by the religious establishment in his day. And at the end of his life, he was nailed to a cross where he didn't say, well, this has turned out well. He questioned God, my God, why have you forsaken me? See, Jesus understands why a person might reach a point and say, God, I just can't believe in you anymore. I just can't go there anymore. And so Jesus went there for us. He went through death and the grave for us so he could come and find us in our doubts and say, I've been down that road before. I know that pain. I've been there too. And here's the thing, I want everyone to just look at me for a moment. Everyone look at my eyes. Jesus will never stop looking for you, even if you stop looking for him. He will never stop searching for you, even if you stop searching for him. Years ago, when I was a college pastor, I met a college student who was a die-hard atheist. In fact, when I met him, he said something to the effect of, I'm sorry. When I told him I was a pastor, he said, I'm sorry. And I was like, well, you know, kind of humbling for an 18-year-old to have pity on your entire calling in life, but you know, it's a different thing. So we started having lunch together and we talked about everything. We talked about theology and philosophy and cosmology and cosmetology. We talked all the ologies. We went through all of it. And he always had a reason not to believe. Well, a few months later, I invited him to a church service. And at the end of that service, the pastor said, anyone who wants to commit their life to Jesus can stand up and come forward. And I thought, there's no way he's gonna do that. He's a die-hard, committed atheist. I've already had this conversation with him. And by the way, pastor to pastor, it wasn't even that great of a message. Then I looked over and to my surprise, my friend stood up. And he walked to the front of the room. And after months of us meeting and talking and debating, he got down on his knees and he committed his life to Jesus. And I found him afterwards and I asked him, I'm like, what happened? And he kind of looked at me like, aren't you a pastor? Don't you know how this works? Like, why are you asking me that? And he told me, I realized I didn't have to keep looking for God. That God had already found me. And God has come looking for you too today. He's come searching for you as well. And sometimes he finds you when you least expect it. Like when you're in a church service And the message isn't even that good. But Jesus doesn't stop there. Look at what happens next. The text says, then he said to Thomas, Thomas, put your fingers here. See my hands. Everybody, reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe. Now, by the way, I've heard this story for over 40 years, and it wasn't until this past week that I realized how disgusting this moment is, right? Like, he asked him, like, put your hand, like, into my side, like, into the wound. I mean, that, like, violates all the COVID guidelines, like, in one fell swoop, like, right there. But notice, Jesus is also calling Thomas to take a leap of faith. Reach out, he says. In other words, you have to stand up and walk across the room and see for yourself if I'm real. And by the way, so are you. I know you're all sitting and watching right now, but faith in Jesus isn't a sit and watch kind of thing. It's a get up and take a risk kind of thing. And Thomas got up and he took a risk to see for himself. And we did. Look at what he said. Thomas said to him, everybody, my Lord and my God. That's quite the transformation, isn't it? From I will not believe to my Lord and my God. And by the way, these weren't just nice sounding words for Thomas. He would live out these words for the rest of his life. In fact, some of you know his story. Years later, Thomas would travel 3,000 miles to become the very first person to bring the story of Jesus to the nation of India, where he would plant churches and reach countless people. He was even martyred for his faith. Thomas, the doubter, the skeptic, the guy who said, I will not believe, goes further and reaches farther than any other disciple, because that's what a real encounter with Jesus will do. It will give you something to live for. No, it will actually give you something more. It will give you something to die for. Aren't you looking for something more in your life today? More than just binging Netflix or scrolling on your phone? Aren't you ready to experience Jesus for who he really is, your Lord and your God, your Savior and your King? Because that's what you'll find if you take that leap. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Some of you are thinking, well, Scotty, Thomas had it easy because Jesus was right there in the room. He could see him. He was right there in the room with him. And you're right. Jesus was. But that doesn't mean Jesus can't meet you in this room today. In fact, right after this moment, Jesus told Thomas, the real blessing here isn't even for you. It's for all those people who will come after you, who won't touch my hands, who won't feel my side, but they reach out anyway. It's for people 2,000 years from now, plumbers and nurse practitioners, artists and app developers, senior executives and single parents who aren't even sure that Jesus is real, but they reach out anyway. The real blessing is for them because they, even more than Thomas, will experience just how real and how loving and how powerful Jesus really is. That's why I'm here. That's why I do what I do, because 25 years ago, on the floor of my college dorm room, when I felt like I had failed God and lost faith, Jesus found me saying, Scotty, I'll catch you, just jump. You don't have to do anything. I paid for your sins on that cross, and I walked out of that tomb, just jump. And I did. And he caught me. And here's the good news today. He can catch you too. He can catch you too. That's what he did for a woman in our church named Rachel, who was basically living her dream life when she discovered that something inside was missing, some sense of peace and joy. And so she reached out to find out if this Jesus was for real. And in doing that, Jesus changed her life forever. But don't just take my word for it. I want you to hear it straight from her. So take a look at this video.
Life before Jesus was by all accounts great. You know, I grew up in Bothell. I have a successful career. I'm an emergency nurse. I married the love of my life. We have 2 healthy kids. My life is not without difficulty, but by all accounts, I was like a healthy, well-adjusted, successful adult. But it didn't make sense to me how the world was shifting towards just all about yourself. And I thought, well, maybe we're not meant to look at ourselves. Like maybe there's something more than that. I started reading C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity, and I was just in. I think I read it in like 3 days. So that just really showed me a whole picture of a different way of life. Did I tell you what my family said when I said I was going to church? They asked if I burst into flames. This is a little hindsight to my teenage years, you know? I knew North Shore was where I was supposed to be. And so I just started coming. The kids and I started coming. Just us. My husband, he's always fully supportive. It just wasn't something that he was interested in doing yet. I remember at the beginning of my walk with Jesus saying to my husband that Jesus doesn't make any sense until it makes perfect sense. And it was just like being willing to take that step down that road is absolutely life-changing. Over the last 4 years, I've seen Jesus move in my life, but I've also seen Jesus move in my husband's life. I think he has seen in me what Jesus can do, and I think it's been inspiring to him. So my husband started coming with us, and that was really special because in January, my daughter came to me and said, I want to get baptized. And I was like, this is my chance. And so we ended up, both my daughter and I got baptized on January 30th, and my husband and son got to be there to see it. My before perception of Christianity was a bunch of people lacking in joy. Like they're just like joyless people that are following these rules. And then I have come to like understand who Jesus is, and that there is just this overwhelming joy that comes from Jesus that is just completely different from any other joy you can find in the world. I could look at my whole life with so much more gratitude and just so much more purpose. Sometimes I wish I could scream from the rooftops, like, Jesus is the answer to all of your problems, but I realize I would sound like a crazy person. But I just truly believe like anybody that's willing to just start walking in the direction of Jesus is headed in the right direction. There's nothing better to focus on, put your faith in, than Jesus, and it will, I have no doubt he would change your life.
And here's the thing. Yeah. And here's the thing. I have no doubt he can change your life too. Because if I can be that crazy person on the rooftops right now, here's the thing. Jesus is the answer to all your problems. He's what you need in that relationship. He's what you need to confront that habit. He's what you need to deal with that shame and regret. He's what you need to finally find joy. But you have to reach out. You have to take that first step. And so I'm gonna give each of you right now an opportunity to do that. Some of you need to make a commitment to Christ or a recommitment to Christ in your life or your marriage, but I'm gonna go an extra bold step and give some of you the opportunity to take what may sound like the craziest step of your life, and that's to actually come forward and say yes to the life-changing power of Jesus and get baptized today. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, Scotty, why would I do that? Like, I'm here with family, like we have brunch plans, like, come on. But here's the thing, it's like Rachel said, trusting Jesus doesn't make sense until it makes perfect sense. Think about your life. Think about every other search and journey, all that you've been looking for to provide security or joy or meaning, and you haven't found it. This step makes perfect sense. Jesus came down from heaven. He lived a perfect life. He died on a cross for your sins, and he was raised from the dead. And if that's true, the only rational response is to surrender everything to him. And that's what baptism is all about. You don't have to have the right clothes. We've got shorts and shirts and towels and private changing areas. You don't have to have the right background. You have to be willing to say, I want to put my faith in Jesus. And if you still have questions, you're not sure what this is about, come on forward. We have pastors who'd love to talk with you about whatever question or situation's going on in your life. And if you're watching online right now, there's a QR code that you can scan right here on my left. Scan that code. It'll take you to a page where you can sign up for this today. You can take this step too. Because here's the thing, you'll never know if he's real just by thinking about it or sitting in a chair, you'll only find out when you jump and he catches you. So I want to invite everyone in this room, if you're able to stand, go ahead and stand on up. Everybody here, stand if you're able. And in a moment, on the count of 3, if you want to be baptized, I'm going to invite you to come forward right down here, front of the room, right on the left side, like right over here. Everybody see where I'm pointing? Right over here. Some of you, you know you need to do this. You can feel it right now, but you're afraid. You're not sure you want to. You don't want people to see you. Friends, that's the enemy using fear to keep you from what God has for you. So don't listen to that voice. Be bold today. Take this step today, because there's no one else that can catch you. There's no one else that can heal you. There's no one else that can give you that joy. There's no one that loves you like Jesus, and he's not dead. He is alive, and he's in this room, arms open, saying, I'll catch you. I'll catch you. Just jump. So are you ready? Church, are you ready? Okay. On 3, you can come forward. It can change your life. On 3, be bold today. On 3, 1, 2, are you ready? 3, take that leap. Come on forward.
Who could imagine so great a mercy? What heart could fathom such boundless grace? The God of ages stepped down from glory to wear my sin and bear my shame. Let's sing together. The cross has spoken, I am forgiven. The King of Kings calls me his own. Beautiful Savior, I'm yours forever. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Oh, sing hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Oh, hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Come on. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of
Man, if God is moving in your life right now and you want to come get baptized, we would love to baptize you. Don't miss this opportunity. God is working in this place. We're going to keep worshiping together. Let's just celebrate what God has done. Christ is my firm foundation, the rock on which I stand. When everything around me is shaking, I've never been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus, 'cause he's never let me down. He's faithful through generations. So why would he fail now? He won't. No, he won't. Yeah. Still got joy in chaos. I've got peace that makes no sense. So I won't be going under. I'm not held by my own strength, 'cause I built my life on Jesus, and he's never let me down. He's faithful in every season. Yes, he is. So why would he fail now? Come on! He won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail.
Well, what a day it's been. I mean, God has been doing some amazing things, and we actually have one more baptisms as well that's taking place. Let's give it up. Let's go. Man, that is so awesome. It is so awesome. Just congratulations to everyone that got baptized here today. We're so excited for them. And I don't know, maybe for you, just everything that you saw today, the things that you heard, the songs that we sang, maybe it connected with you in some way. And I don't know if you're making a decision right now in your place, in your heart right now. And if that's you, man, I commend you. Maybe you have some questions about faith and you want to talk to someone about it. Will you actually do that on your connection cards? Let us know. Or I might even ask you to take an extra step and come up to our I have decided stations over here on your left. Great opportunity for someone to pray with you and talk about this next step with you in this faith journey.
Yeah, we have a team over there, so take this moment. If God is putting it on your heart or you have questions, head on over there after the service. We just wanted to remind you as well about filling out those connection cards. We're really excited about those today. And if this is your first time joining us, you might be wondering why I'm holding this box. If you're a first-time guest, this gift is for you, and they're out at the guest services table. So take your connection card out there, and we are just so glad that each and every one of you joined us today. What an awesome celebration.
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks again for joining us today. Hey, on your way out, introduce yourself to someone you don't know. And again, happy Easter, everyone. Have a great one.
We'll see you next time.